Mark, hi, blessings, and kombucha upon your podcast. It's so wonderful to be here. Thank you for receiving me. Connect with me. Don't break the contact. There you go. Can you feel that? Can you feel that, Mark? That's me inside of you right now. Hold that. Keep it. It's yours. Stay damaged, Mark. I love you. That really hurt my hips. I have to go now. I think I've injured myself, Mark. Cut! Cut it, Mark! Mark, cut it!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, I'm talking to a man, or possibly an enlightened being. We're not sure yet. We'll find out. He is an actor. He is a comedian. He's a writer. He's a producer. He's won tons of awards. It's none other than Namaste Bae, Rob Van Vuuren. I said that very heavily, didn't I? Vuuren.
I feel like you're overcompensating me a little bit, Mark.
I did. How do you say it now? How do you anglicize it?
I say it like a very anglicized, English-speaking South African. I say Van Vuuren.
Van Vuuren.
Rob Van Vuuren.
Van Vuuren.
Vuuren.
Okay, so listen, I spent a lot of time out of South Africa, so I have a somewhat American accent. So just excuse me. But this morning, I've been coughing like a mofo because I was watching something online about your character Twaki.
Yeah.
And you said something. You said the moerstick of joy. And for some reason, that term, I started like laughing so hard in the kitchen that I was doubled over. I started crying. And my wife was like, what is a moerstick?
A moerstick was a learning tool.
A learning tool. It's a bit like a shambok, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was kind of like almost like a baseball bat, which had been taped up with a really cool handle. And of course, moer, as you know, but your listeners might not, means to smack someone. Yeah.
So I want to say to people, if you're starting to listen to this episode or watching it, do yourself a favor, pause, and go anywhere on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, type in Rob Van Vuuren or Namaste Bae, Namaste the way it's normally spelled in Bae, B-A-E, and you will see an insane human being. So my first question for you, you're very funny. I'm going to tell you stuff. Actually, let me tell you this first.
To put into context what I am, I think insane human being is the best way to start.
Insane human being. Well, you have a level of you're channeling some crazy shit. But I wanted to tell you. So a lot of my community are people that have escaped abusive relationships, sort of cults of one, or they've escaped cults, and a lot of the things they've escaped have had leaders that have taken themselves very, very seriously. So you're like therapy for the survivor community, that's a lot of whom are on my podcast, because they watch you and they're like, oh my God, that's what's really going on underneath the facade, the veneer, right? But I want to ask you a question. So I want to tell you quickly. So when I was when I was in my cult, I've been in a few, by the way. There was one day there was this haven't we all? There was a choreographer, and she really dressed very strangely. And then one day at one of the seminars, somebody who was very, very straight-laced looked at her, because she dressed very weirdly, and said to her, like, so how exactly did you get like this? And all of us just started laughing. And that's what I wanted to ask you, like, Rob, how did you get like this, like you are?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I don't even know where to start. I've always wanted to be a performer. My calling has always been the performing arts and writing, and I remember writing poems and performing them at my parents' when I was a little kid, and writing plays and forcing my schoolmates to be in them. Um, and I don't know, through my path, I guess had developed this penchant for creating characters that exist on the fringes of society, or in a liminal space in society, that are deeply flawed, where they're almost called all unbridled id, all their true kind of urges and desires they wear on their sleeves, kind of thing. And Namaste Bae, in particular, came out of my experience in the alternative healing space, and uh, 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 going to ayahuasca ceremonies, and which I found, as a person going through the trauma I was trying to deal with at the time, I found it incredibly cathartic and healing, and an amazing experience. But as a comedian, as a satirist, being in that space, I couldn't help but, I suppose, notice the comedic possibilities of the space, and
Mm.
the dynamics within the space, and all the obvious kind of uh, uh, pitfalls of privilege and cultural appropriation, and how incredibly vulnerable people are in those spaces.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't even know if that even begins to answer your question.
Well, let's just stick with the character Namaste. By the way, are you coming out of Boulders Beach? Is that where you are
I'm
in
in
those
Fishhook.
videos? Fishhook. Okay.
I'm in Fishhook. So the
Okay.
Penguin Cave of Desire is just, I'm a little flat across the road from the beach. It's along the walkway next to the beach, and there's kind of a natural tidal pool there,
Amazing.
where I've kind of appropriated the
Yeah.
space.
Amazing. I've swum there a few times.
Mm.
Um,
Occasionally
when,
go to
so when I
Boulders to shoot some penguins, to keep the
yeah,
facade going that there are penguins everywhere. They're not so much here in Fishhook.
they're not so much. So the thing about your character Namaste Bay that I love is, and I think I wrote you and I said, like, I know people like this. I think I may have been a person like this. I mean, I remember I think it was January 1st, 1990, standing on top of Lion's Head doing some kind of ceremony, and I took myself so seriously, like so seriously. And so what
Yeah.
I love is your character sort of, that you wear the facade, that there's these beautiful layers. You wear the facade of somebody who's, trying to be enlightened, but all the neurosis is bleeding through.
Mm.
And it's brilliant. I wish I could. I mean, the best thing for people to do is to watch it, but it's brilliant what you've done. I mean, and how did you sort of figure that out? Is it just a feeling thing, or did you think carefully about how to do that?
The character itself, himself, and the viral thing that happened with it was entirely by mistake. None of that was
Mm.
premeditated or thought out at all. I actually I had a stand-up comedy show that I was trying to promote, which had dealt with my ayahuasca experience, as part of that material. It was kind of a lockdown show, and experiences through lockdown and separation, and um, all those kind of things. And I got tired of speaking as myself into the camera to promote this show. And then the one day I was going swimming in my favorite spot at the Penguin Cave of Desire, and I just started speaking in this voice, which felt like a kind of deep south comic hippie vibe. And I talked about the show and about ayahuasca purging ceremonies. And then I went for a swim. And then I actually forgot about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I was back in the same spot. And someone had left a used tampon in the in between the rocks there. And I was like, oh, I have to do a video about this. And then I've said something, just did the same voice and said something about the Penguin Cave of Desire. And is this a penguin, or what kind of penguin is this, or what happened to this penguin? Some stupid shit that was just kind of off the top of my head. And I went for a swim and I came out. And the reel had like views that I hadn't experienced at that point. I mean, at that point, I was on about 9,000 followers. And I had a lot of fans from the old Corner and Twaki days. But, my social media presence wasn't that big. And suddenly I was getting these crazy numbers. I was like, oh, shit, maybe I should do another one of these videos with this character. I did another video on my walk back, and it did similar numbers. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this guy. And then by the fourth video, it went crazy viral. It was like that reel's nearly on 2 million views now. And then
Yes.
that was like mid-November. By the end of the year, I was on 100,000 followers, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just decided to put out reels every day. And then I decided to write a full show about it. And what was amazing is how much content was just there already. And in the beginning, how much of it was crowdsourced and community sourced and people engaging with it, because as you say, there's so many people saw themselves in it or knew people like that who had this experience. And that was also really surprising, was the global reach of it. And in retrospect, in hindsight, it's like it kind of makes sense, because it is a global phenomenon, this push towards alternative healing and alternative modes of processing the trauma of being human.
Because it seems like you're on a journey of your own spiritually anyway, but you're capable of making fun of yourself as well. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was going to say actually is one of the big things that I realized, particularly through lockdown, and in the process leading up to the creation of Namaste Bae, was how kind of appalled I was by the idea of certainty. Anyone speaking with any kind of certainty about anything to me was just like, and I realized, no one knows what's going on. We're all terrified. And I'm talking particularly about expressing our experience of the human condition and what it is to be human. We're all like, none of us know what's going on. And we take ourselves terribly seriously. And when we latch onto an idea that feels like it gives our lives meaning and purpose and direction, it can be so incredibly powerful for the force of good for you and people around you, but it's so easily manipulated and can so easily go in the wrong direction. And I think particularly in that space, there's an earnestness that undermines the true lesson in it all, which is that we don't know what the fuck's going on.
We do not know what the fuck is going on. I actually just did an episode on this podcast called The Goodness Trap, about like the good people, the people that are yearning for goodness, that get caught in the web sometimes of people that are really full of shit and abusing that pull that they have. I just find, there's something so... I'm just going to keep on saying wonderful things about you for a second. There's such a vulnerability to your character, and actually just you as well, because I've watched a bunch of interviews of yours now, and what you do is you sort of show vulnerability just being you as well. There's an authenticity that is so refreshing, which is amazing. You don't have to answer that. I'm just saying that about you. And the other thing I was thinking about, I think my audience don't know. I mean, my audience is mostly the US at this point. It's like 65% the US. But they don't know like how insane South Africa was and is. Like, it's insane. The country's insane. There's so many bizarre things that are going on. The government's just doing the stupidest shit. And I think there's some extraordinary comedy coming out of that. And I was just wondering, like, is this a way for you to process just some of the glaring, I suppose, stupidity and insanity that you see in your everyday life, just all your different characters?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, being South African uh, and the age that I am and the time that I grew up has absolutely framed my perspective and context as an artist or a comedian or a satirist or a theater maker or whatever. Um, I'm old enough now. I'm 48. I was born in 76. So I'm old enough to remember and have lived in apartheid South Africa, which which was fucking insane, and uh, uh, growing up as a white person in that space, luckily with a family with parents who were pretty left leaning and kind of helped give me a perspective on the society I was growing up in and the inequality and injustice in it all, and then being nurtured through the arts and particularly through the performing arts by my mother, who took me to the National Arts Festival for the first time when I was in high school,
Amazing.
34 years ago. And that experience growing up in that state of emergency, this crazy time, and then going through the change in South Africa, this incredibly hopeful time, 90, 94, 95, 96. Those years were like
Mm.
just magical in this country. And I turned 18 at the first election, so I got to vote for the first time in a free and fair democratic South Africa, and it was to live through that was incredible. And now, however many years later, and all the hangover from that hasn't changed, and the corruption of the governing party and the unfulfilled promises and the the desperation of the people, and uh, that has obviously kind of framed my experience of the world. And I guess to get back to what you were saying, I I think growing up where I did and how I did, and where I am now, I'm so kind of aware of. Um, so I'm also so nervous about podcasts and things. Like I'm so nervous about
Oh yeah,
this is my opinion,
yeah.
because the last thing the fucking world needs is another old white dude's opinion. As an artist, I'm not really interested in giving an opinion. I'm trying to just open myself up and show reflection of
Mm.
what it is to be human. And at the core of that, it's uncertainty, it's fallibility, it's all those repressed things uh, kind of laid bare in a way. So I think I'm
Mm.
attracted to
Mm.
characters that do that profess to having a clarity and an earnestness and a purpose and a thing, but they cannot help but show that they don't have a fucking clue, and they're fucking it up
Fucking
every
clue.
step of the way, and their true impulses are being laid bare. Uh,
I love it. You're a deep one, not just a funny man, eh? You're a deep one. You're a deep. My family is interesting because half of my family was super progressive and the other half was a bit bietjie verkrampt. Um, so that was interesting growing up in two worlds, and I was living before I left to the US. I was living in Yeovil, which at that point we told the police, like, fuck off, we're living together, screw you. So it was a magical time when everything shifted. But I had the same feeling. I don't know if you felt this, but I had such sadness when things started going south. because there
Mm,
was like so much hope. And what I've seen, thank goodness, is there's of course a lot of anger and heartbreak, but I love the role that you and a few other people have taken. I suppose it's almost like the court jester in some ways, like the fool,
absolutely. Yeah. I
like
think, look,
poking fun at shit.
yeah. And I think comedy in South Africa has been a coping mechanism throughout all these times, and it's the kind of comedy that comes out of South Africa is really really interesting, and it's the rest of the world is starting to pick up on that, and it's I think comedy in general is a very basic human
Mm.
survival instinct. It's a very basic way that we try and kind of survive
Yeah,
what's going on.
yeah,
And I think the art of a nation is often really strong and interesting when that nation has gone through strife and trouble and are kind of forced on a national level to really question themselves and the whole
yeah,
thing. So yeah, and I think theatre as well, art in this country over through the apartheid years was such an important tool for cultural awareness and cultural progression, and the quality of work that came out during that time and that continues is is astounding, actually.
yeah. No, it is. I remember the first few films I worked on when because I went to drama school at Wits,
Yeah,
and I mean, I was working at the same time and working on films, and I mean, a bunch of the first films that I worked on were all banned, So we were trying to figure out always like how do you talk about these things, and a bunch of my friends were using comedy. And the other thing, by the way, that I wanted to say to you that I love is that when you poke fun of people, it's never mean, you know?
yeah, and that's the interesting thing with the Namaste Bay character in particular, is because there's a lot of people satirizing that space.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of it can sometimes feel quite mean. And I agree with you, mine somehow doesn't. And again, that isn't a conscious thing. And I think it comes from my own compassion for the space and for the complexity of the space of how it can simultaneously be like really really amazing and really good for people, but at the same time it can be very dangerous for people as well.
Yeah.
And my personal experience was that I came out of it, incredible. My overwhelming sense for everything was compassion for myself,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
people around me. But I also realized it's a very dangerous space, and there's also so many the sense of community that people get there so easily warped into. It's not a sense of community, it's the cult of personality, and it becomes very, you've got to conform in that space as well, and you're very susceptible to manipulation and
Yes, I agree. It feels like, and I found this with myself because I rejected, because, I grew up sort of Dutch reform, and then I rejected that. Then I embraced New Age. And then eventually I realized, oh, I'm just doing the same pattern with the New Age. Now I have a bunch of new rules that I'm all
yeah.
uptight about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I guess my thing as a comedian is like, let's try and be less uptight about all of this,
Mm.
and acknowledge our kind of fallibility in all of it. Um,
Did you have when you like did ayahuasca or did whatever you did in your life, did you ever have moments of like, oh, I found the way, I found the thing, or did you always get, yeah, I don't know, this is just an experience?
oh no, I absolutely had moments of, I suppose, what felt like complete clarity and certainly could feel myself going like, wow, I could really go down a path with this, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
Um, but again, one of the biggest lessons that I took from the experience and the lessons that I'm learning as I grow, I guess, and it's particularly the lessons I'm learning as a father, is to be less reactionary, to
Mm.
observe and then respond in time as opposed to react. So I think through that process, I was also quite conscious of letting it sit with me and
Mm.
not reacting, because that was something I was really kind of addressing in
Mm.
myself at the time. And I think that it helped me. It helped me kind of, because the character itself, as I say, it only came out like a year. I had written a stand-up comedy show, and that was very much me trying to figure shit out. But the character came out maybe a year and a half, 2 years after the show, and that was um, it had settled, it had sat, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sat for a while. So then when it came out, it had fermented like a good kombucha SCOBY, and it was kind of fully formed and ready to go.
Did you ever see did you ever see the movie Kumare?
Kumare, no.
Okay, so it's this filmmaker. His name is Vikram Gandhi. It's a
Yeah.
documentary. And he makes a documentary about, like, he's going to pretend to be an Indian guru because he looks like he's Indian, and he looks, I mean, he's got the long hair and everything. So he does this whole film about pretending to be a guru, and he starts the following of people that are following him, and he does the Indian accent and the whole thing. And he's, as an aside, he's talking to the camera sometimes about, he's narrating like his experience of what this is like while he's gathering this group of people. And at a certain point, he says, I realize I have to tell them, but I don't want to, because he's starting to, like, feed off the feeling of power.
Yeah.
And so eventually, it's really worth seeing. It's an amazing study. I'm trying to get him on my podcast. And eventually, he tells the people that he's not for real. And people, so half of them, or maybe more than half of them, are so upset, and the other half think it's just a test. You know, it's an insane, it's insane to watch. But I was thinking about, I was always a very nervous person in theater. Like, I didn't feel the feeling, and I didn't have the freedom that I see other people have. And I was thinking to myself, like, it's my belief that you're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And from what I've seen, your shows, the amount of energy that you give out and the amount of energy that's going on is extraordinary. Do you ever feel like you have to just watch yourself carefully, that you don't get seduced by all that, or do you feel so solid that you're like, that's not a worry of yours at all?
Um, well, it's interesting because the character Namaste Bae, people want to believe so
Mm.
bad in him, and there is like, I suppose I've consciously set out to start a cult, and it's happening in different ways. There are people who understand the character and understand the satire and understand exactly what I'm doing, but they are now in the cult of Namaste Babe. They're like, you know, they're totally uh, uh, they will go where Namaste Babe wants them to go. So as an artist, and I feel a responsibility to keep undermining the character, to keep to keep showing how fucked he actually is,
Yeah.
and to not uh, get seduced by the idea that I can dispense actual
Mm.
wisdom uh,
Mm.
and and actual advice. And it's quite a delicate balance, because at my core, I am also there is a message, which is we're all okay and we're all fucked, but it's okay, and just it's going to be okay. Let it go, or whatever that is. But I'm
Yeah.
trying not to think too hard about that. That must just be kind of a subconscious thing that's happening. I think the conscious thing is to
Right.
keep undermining the character. And then there's people who like who believe that this guy is real. He's running a cult. He's actually
Oh
running a
my
cult.
God.
That he's the debate about the size of my pupils is it's
Really?
hilarious. Throughout, there's been so much debate about the size of my pupils and what drugs I'm actually on. Because obviously I'm talking about psilocybin a lot, and but they're looking at my pupils and they're going, those pupils are too small. He's on like meth or PCP or something, and then there's people who are just terribly worried about me and want me to check into a facility or like someone's going to come pick me up. Um,
Mm,
so it's
mm,
really interesting how people kind of respond to the character, what their truth for the character is, and I'm kind of debating where how I control that narrative and
mm,
whether I should control that narrative at all. Do I just stay
mm,
true to the character and just like keep um, running with this
mm,
narrative? And what's interesting to me is that people are so lazy. They make
mm.
all these assumptions and decide this entire narrative without the least amount of research. And by research, I
Mm.
mean like clicking out of that video onto the rest of my page and
Right.
looking at the profile where it says actor, comedian, kombucha,
Yeah.
or just
Yeah.
scrolling down the pages and seeing, oh wait, he does, oh that's a comedy show he's doing over there, or a stand-up show, or oh that's a trailer
Yeah.
for a movie. They don't do that. They just react. They respond to it, and that's the truth. And they're so deep down it. Someone
Yeah.
in a message yesterday or the day before um, was convinced that a demon had forced me to post this video.
You know, but that's the thing. That's the thing as entertainers that we rely on. We rely on that suspension of disbelief to do what we do, right?
Yeah,
Because
I guess. What's interesting for me is that my natural assumption was that people would understand the joke,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't. They just take it at face value, which is such an
yeah,
interesting kind of just perspective on how the internet works and how people operate. But as an artist, as behind this character, it's brought up interesting questions about do do I just let that be? Do I
yeah,
let them think
yeah.
whatever they're going to think, or do I? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, my thought is that you can't control that.
Yeah,
I don't think you can control
actually,
that.
that's my feeling.
Um,
Is
yeah.
uh,
But I like what you're saying. Like you constantly try to undermine the character because what happens is you say something and then a part of you listens to what you just said and thinks that that might be kind of fucked up and it doesn't make sense. And like I'm tracking it on your face. I'm tracking the confusion. It's sort of like the character has all these compartmentalized things and nothing's in one whole thing. It's all over the place.
yeah.
Um, and by the way, the other thing I do love, I haven't seen all your stuff, obviously. I haven't seen your stand-up shows. I'm so looking forward to seeing it. And I do notice, by the way, in the newest one you're doing, you're in what, a diaper or something? What the hell is going on there? Half Kalchat in the audience. Is that Namaste?
That's Namaste Bae. That's
That's
Namaste Bae.
Namaste.
That's his
Ah,
like guru nappy thing. That's all that Namaste Bae wears
okay.
is that guru nappy. And then for the
Ah,
show, I'm all lubed up in
yeah.
shiny and lots of water and
Lots of water. And how do you? I mean, that the level of energy you must have to put out because I think you're being very doing a lot of physical stuff too, right?
yeah.
So
My background was always as a physical comedian, and my training in theatre was in physical theatre, um,
ah,
and was always interested in clowning and things like that. So,
okay,
but I have this love for language, and I love wordplay, and I
yeah,
love that. So Namaste is this really cool kind of melding of the two, the show itself, where it's got this so much physical comedy, and
Yeah.
it's physically extremely intense.
It seems that way. And also the thing
Yeah.
that's so interesting, you call it a healing, you call it like a healing ceremony. And it's
Mm.
funny because I know that you're joking, but I have a feeling it's very cathartic because I know I know I'd enjoy it because I would get to laugh at a lot of the things that I used to take seriously and things that I may not have actually looked at.
Look, at the risk of sounding like someone who thinks that he is actually a shaman, it's very cathartic. It is absolutely
Yeah.
cathartic, and I think it's cathartic in this because the character who's leading this healing ceremony does exactly what we've talking about. He lays all of his problems bare, and you can see that
Yeah.
he is grappling with everything, and in fact fails on a
Yeah.
catastrophic level.
Uh,
And you see all, you know, you see that. You see someone fall apart completely
yeah.
in the most hilarious, beautiful way. And
Uh,
I think it allows you as an audience member to fall apart in a similar way. I've always felt like comedy, if like when comedy is directed at someone, it's just it doesn't do the same thing. But if it's kind of directed at yourself and then
yes.
out,
Yes.
um, it allows people to have empathy. It kind of activates their empathy, and then they understand and they feel the
Yes.
things.
Yes, I totally agree. So, and I want to get to some other things, but so Namaste Bay, you're going on tour with that to, I think, the UK and some other places?
Yeah, I'm heading on a tour next week in South Africa down the garden route. I've got a couple of shows. I'm going to the National Arts Festival in a little town called Makanda. Used to be called
Grahamstown.
Grahamstown. Yeah,
Yeah. What's it called now?
uh, Makanda. Uh,
Wakanda. That's right.
Makanda, yeah.
How
Uh,
you can tell how long it's been since I was in
yeah,
down there.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's my 50th consecutive year performing at that festival, which is
No.
absolutely crazy. And then, yeah, I come back and I do some shows in Cape Town and Joburg, and then head to London for a run at the Bite Size Festival at Riverside Studios,
Mm,
and then to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival at the Assembly Festival from the 1st to the 11th
amazing.
of August. Yeah. I'm excited to get
Amazing.
this show
Amazing.
um, out of South Africa because I've been doing it so much here, and it's so difficult to tour from South Africa. But
Mm,
I did a couple of shows of Namaste Bae in London last year, and the response was amazing. And the thing about this
mm,
character is the global appeal. Like
mm-hmm,
most of my Instagram audience is in America at the moment, more than South Africa
mm-hmm,
even.
mm-hmm.
It's mostly the US, South Africa, Australia, and yeah. So I've got to come go to the
You
US.
got
I
to
have
come.
to.
You got to
I have
go.
to.
You got to do LA. You got to do California. You have to do
Yeah,
California somehow.
yeah, totally. And I'd love to do like, I don't know, there's got to be like a US kombucha belt that goes through Colorado and places like
There's
that.
also like Sedona, Arizona, which is the epicenter of a lot of this shit. That would be funny.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
would be funny.
Exactly.
So there's another character. The other thing I love is Poetry Corner. I love how you
Yes.
start like sniffing shit and say, "Oh, hello," and that he's insane. But what I love, because I think you're taking, as far as I remember, you're taking lyrics from existing pieces of music
Yeah, and then passing it off
and
as my own poetry.
yeah. And what's
Mm.
funny is because listen, I have a lot of opinions about some of the music nowadays, and some of the lyrics. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's what you do with that character. So that's insane. How did that come about? How did Poetry Corner come about?
It's actually a character I had years ago, kind of pre-social media. I think I put some on YouTube. Um, uh, it uh, it was a character, full disclosure, it's an idea that I stole from Peter Sellers. I remember
Mm,
watching a clip when I was a kid in apartheid South Africa of him in the BBC as Richard III, from Shakespeare, doing the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night lyrics. Um, and it's just always stuck in my mind. As a kid, I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and it's always stuck in my mind. And as I grew older, just like as you said, popular music and lyrics, it's some of the shit out there is crazy. It's crazy. And I was like, oh, I just want to be able to. So I started doing it in some of my stand-up shows. I started with Usher's Make Love in This Club, which is hilarious. And Taylor Swift's We're Never Getting Back Together. Um,
I love that one. I love
it's,
that one.
it's, um, yeah, and then I suppose as Namaste Bae exploded, and I was kind of dealing with the fatigue of trying to constantly create content for this one character, and I realized I should do some other characters and just spread the load a little bit and make it also a little bit more interesting for myself. And I was like, oh, what
Yeah.
about that warrior poet guy I used to do? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I want to delve deeper into his motivations behind the
Yeah.
lyrics and what they really mean to him, and um, where he gets his inspiration from.
I love that he doesn't think that anybody will find out that those are not his words. I love that. I love that. Like he lives in
He's
such a bubble that he has no idea.
no idea, no idea, and he will like go like, "What?" I mean, it's on one of the YouTube clips. There is the interviewer questions him about the idea of plagiarism, and he's like, "What are you talking about? I get my ideas from nature, and
Yeah.
what are ideas anyway, and
Yeah.
who owns an idea?"
And by the way, I've met Cape Tonians that are like that character. I have met very posh Cape Tonians that are like that.
Ultra pretentious.
Yeah, ultra pretentious. I mean, I was thinking that when I went to, because I went to very British boarding schools, but in South Africa, and
Right.
I remember there were some teachers that had that, that kind of the cravat and the smoking jacket and the, shit like
Where
that,
did you
hanging
go?
out with the
Mindful
boys and girls.
House.
No, 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 I didn't. I actually went to, so I went to Uplands Prep School up in
Uplands.
White River, it's up in White
Oh,
River,
near
and then
Nelspruit.
near Nelspruit, yeah, and then I got into Ridge. That was where I was going to continue, but then I left the country because my parents left the country, so we went to Canada, and that was that, and then I came back eventually. But yeah, I've met people very very much like that, and that's the thing. I believe right now, this is me proselytizing for a second. Like, I believe right now the world is so fucking confusing, but I really believe in comedy. I really believe in what comics are doing because everything's so inflammatory that I feel like comedy sort of releases the pressure valve. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and also the thing I've noticed, like I've not seen all your work obviously, but I've noticed like when you play with racism, you poke fun at yourself for being white, you talk about the fucked up politics, but it seems to work. It doesn't seem to like upset people, from what I can tell. Or am I wrong?
No, for the most part, no. People receive me in a way that is they don't feel threatened by me, and which I actually don't understand, to be honest, because I do say some of the most incredibly inflammatory things. And I can be really in your face, and I will say terrible things to you. I can be incredibly, what seems on paper, incredibly mean. Um, but for some reason, it doesn't come across that way. And I think
Yeah,
I like to think it's because, well, I don't mean it that way. I'm
yeah,
literally
yeah,
just having fun, and my I don't know, my most basic impulse is love. Like
yeah,
I'm doing this through love. Um,
yeah,
it sounds super corny, but that's the that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I want to somehow just affirm our humanness. I don't want to tell you how to feel or something. I just want to, like I say, it's okay. It's okay. I also don't know.
Yeah. Which I think is amazing. I wanted to kind of ask you though, like, why? Because this is a beautiful thing, right? So why is this? You know, like some people become psychologists or they become mediators because like there's fighting in their household and they become the mediator. You know, so now this is their thing in life. But like this thing of wanting people to not take themselves seriously, to be okay with not knowing. I mean, why do you think that's so? That's just who you've become. Fokviet.
Don't.
Fokviet.
I mean, look, obviously, the experiences I've had, the way I was brought up, like all the things we've spoken about, the context of the world that I grew up in, and becoming a dad, going through a separation, and the
Mm,
process of that. Our initial kind of impulse as a couple separating was to save the marriage, and what we realized through our process, which included ayahuasca, but also included enormous amounts of therapy, enormous amounts of like face-to-face communication and honesty, and like really doing the work on all the levels, reading the books, doing the podcasts, uh, and all the things. And what we realized is that we ultimately saved the relationship, and the marriage wasn't that important. And yeah, again, compassion and love and understanding, and just seems like the best way forward. It seems like
mm.
the the simplest way to approach life.
Yes, I agree. And yet, what's so interesting, you know, it's so easy to take positions now and to shit on other people because, you know, we live in
Exactly, and this
this.
is what I was going to say. What you said earlier about everything is so polarized. Everyone has such a strong opinion on either end of the scale, and
Sure.
there's so little discourse that happens in the middle where you're not taking yourself so seriously, and that is the role of comedians and what comedians do
Yes.
so well, especially comedians that are not out there to give you their position. They're not there to give you
Yeah.
their position and their opinion. They're just going,
Yeah.
"Oh, I noticed something.
Mm.
Isn't this strange?" Or I don't know what to feel about this.
I love that. I love that because, you know, I was in a number of groups and I felt such certainty. I mean, you know, starting with Christianity and everything, I felt such certainty. And then in terms of my story, I felt so broken that I sort of just threw everything out. And in that throwing everything out and that feeling of brokenness, I realized like I don't know shit. I know nothing. Because clearly I've made such fucking horrible choices, knowing everything. So it's all just cock, you know? And then I found this feeling of like, I don't know shit. And apparently everybody else is in the same boat as me. And how amazing. And then I started
Mm.
appreciating other human beings instead of just vilifying them for, you know, the different things they believed. And I feel similarly to you in some ways. I don't do it through comedy, but I'm trying to figure out how can we have conversations that involve nuance and the craziness of existence, you know? Not as funny as you, though. Not as funny as you.
Yeah. Um, Thank God I'm funny, because I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah, but I do want to know, like what are your dreams moving forward? You know, what is it that you're wanting to create? Because you know, you seem like this endless fountain of stuff in there.
Um, Look, I am a creator. I create work. I've always created work, and I think I'll keep doing that for as long as I live. Um, I think in the early stages of my career, I was incredibly driven and focused and goal orientated and I realized about 20 years in that because of that attitude, I was constantly kind of projecting forward and not appreciating that I'd actually self-actualized. I'd actually already done the thing I fantasized about as a kid. Because I was always thinking like, oh, I've got to get more film work, and I've got to get that thing, or I've got to win that award, or I've got to, and I, yeah, I didn't realize, oh, I'm doing all the things that as a kid, I fantasized about. Writing those poems as a kid, seeing Andrew Buckland, who is my own personal theatre guru shaman, for the first time, watching The Goonies, Steven Spielberg's The Goonies. Was it Steven Spielberg or was it Zemeckis? Or I can't remember. Like that movie, I remember that scene with Chunk squishing his face up against the window, going, "Holy shit!" And I was like, in that moment, going, "I want to be that kid. I want to do that thing." And then I realized one day, oh, I am doing that thing. I'm doing all of those things. So now I'm my answer to that question. Sorry for taking the long route around it. Is I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. The path that I'm on is incredibly satisfying. It's exciting. I have incredible experiences. It's taken me to so many interesting places. And I keep getting surprised by where the journey takes me, and I'm trying to be more present in that and trust that it's in motion. You know what I mean? But I'd love to make more money as well. I
Yeah.
don't want to be
Yeah.
traveling for the rest of my life.
I
Um,
know. I
Financial
know.
success would be great on a different kind of level, but ultimately, as an artist, I'm very, very fulfilled, and I cannot wait to see what happens next.
I can't wait to see either. I mean, I'm just honestly, I've been such a fan of yours for quite a while, and a lot of my friends, the friendships you have where you send each other memes, because I have a lot of my damaged friends, us damaged people, we send each other funny shit, and you're one of the people we send a lot, you know, and we start laughing, and then we just, we call each other, message each other. It's just, I think you've given us a lot of us a sense of like being able to laugh about the stuff that really, really hurt, and realizing that these people are, because sometimes when you're in cults, you build these leaders up to be like almost these gods, and then you
Yes.
just get to laugh, and realize that they're full of shit. And I found that, it's so funny. I think I've said this a few times, that when I made the film, What the Bleep Do We Know, and it sort of came out and became very, very successful and very big, I started hanging out with all the people that read their books growing up, the amazing, amazing, people. I won't mention their names. But then I started spending time with them. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you people are fucked up. And they were just human,
Yeah.
but I built them up to this level. So like the kind of comedy you do feels to me like it releases that.
Yeah, it releases the expectation you have on these people. Uh, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was also fascinated by the idea of like so much pressure to be the
Yeah.
leader of a cult. So much pressure to appear so certain about everything, you know?
No, you've actually nailed it, because that's what it is. You take the pressure off this insane quest for enlightenment. What I love is you make fun of it, and it takes all the pressure. And by the way, I was somebody that was my big quest in life, was enlightenment. And then finally one day I was like, okay, first of all, it's kind of bullshit. and secondly, here I am alive, my heart's beating, and I'm like, I exist. Wow.
Mm.
You know? Where's the best place for people to find you?
On the moment, it's probably the social medias. Instagram is the most active, I guess. TikTok, I'm trying to keep a TikTok presence going. God,
So much
um,
work, right?
it's so much work.
Jesus,
Uh,
so much work.
um, I'm also there's a website coming out soon, a Namaste Bae website where I'm going to be selling healing tutorials.
Yeah.
Um, So there'll be some extra kind of top secret content there. Um,
Nice.
I'm toying with the idea of starting a Namaste Bear OnlyFans account,
Mm, mm.
sexual healing, you know.
I've got tips from you from my various encounters with different cults.
Please, that'd be so great. I mean, I'll ask you for some, yeah, because
Yeah. Yeah. I have
I think
another
that,
crazy idea for you. Another
yeah,
crazy idea. You know, I spent a number of years in the different cults I was in because I'm a filmmaker, and they would always be like, "Oh, you know how to shoot?" And I go, "Yeah, I know how to shoot." So sometimes I became like the official videographer filmmaker, and I traveled the world with cult leaders who channeled entities, and the shit that I saw is so insane. But I had this thought, you know, it'd be funny is to do sort of behind the scenes of Namaste Bay traveling and all the shit that goes wrong. You know, like a
mm,
little behind the scenes documentary, as though it's like trying to be like a promotional piece,
mm,
but it's failing abysmally
yeah.
because of all the shit that's going on, you know, behind the scenes. So just
Mm.
a thought.
No, I love it because he's got to travel. And what I really want to do is do a mockumentary or a series or something where he's trying to run his cult and all this shit that the
Yes.
compound, the shit that goes wrong, trying to get
Yes.
ayahuasca through the border, um,
Yes.
food poisoning in the kitchen, just
Have you tried to pitch that idea?
it's kind of in the works at the moment and playing around with it. At the moment, I'm just trying to get this healing course
Of course.
up there, but that is
Of course.
one of
I love
the
it.
goals. Yeah,
I love it. I tell you, there is a massive audience for that kind of thing, what you want to create.
I think so.
Massive.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. Can just think about like the true con sort of, you know, genre of all these cult shows and things, you know,
Yes,
that's still going strong. I mean, I'm busy shooting another one. You know, it's still going strong. I mean, what we're missing though is comedy.
that's
That's
great.
what we're missing.
Is the true crime angle on it? The thing,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
whole how it all went wrong.
How it all went wrong. Yeah, yeah. And also because the
Mm,
character's so great, because the character's trying to keep it together, but you can clearly see like shit's not working,
mm.
you know. And they're, I mean, which sounds a bit like some political campaigns that happen, you know, in countries I won't mention. But anyway, anyway,
In all countries at the moment. I mean,
all
you were talking
countries.
about South Africa and the fact that it's so politically, like we're so politically disillusioned. I think that's a global phenomenon
It
right
is.
now. We are
It is.
so globally disillusioned with
Yes.
the system and politicians,
Yes.
and
But
I
what's
think,
amazing, what's what's funny is the way people are holding on to something that doesn't exist.
yeah,
Like holding on to a leader as though the leader actually is profound and amazing, and it's not true. There's something so bizarre about watching that.
yes, the cognitive dissonance involved in that with like in our case, a guy like Jacob Zuma, who is so
Yeah,
clearly transgressed on so many levels, and but at the same time there's a following that it's a
yeah,
cult following. They just
of course.
refuse to see any of the facts, and it is just
Yeah,
this messiah figure.
yeah.
Um,
No, exactly.
Trump. I mean. it's
You know, I can't. I mean, I can't ridicule it too much because certainly I've made some shit choices in my life as well, and I've believed in a bunch of people that I look back and I go like, "What the fuck?" But I get it. I understand now why I did, and a
yes,
lot of what I'm trying to do is help people understand how it works. And it's very human. It's very
yes,
human.
exactly. And that's what we're talking about in terms of compassion, is having compassion for yourself for getting sucked up in it, having compassion for people
Yeah,
who are still sucked up in it and who have such strong opinions and are so angry about everything, instead of
yeah,
being kind of triggered by that or feeling attacked by that or wanting to attack
yeah,
back. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
oh, I get it. I get why it's so scary for you. It's also
yeah,
scary for
yeah, yeah. Do you have any advice for artists? Any parting advice for artists that in whatever field?
good luck. Good fucking luck. No, I don't know. What advice do you give artists? That's a whole other discussion. That's
Yeah.
a whole other discussion.
I mean,
Um,
I'll tell you what I admire. I admire people. I really admire you because when you go for it, no hesitation. Like what I see as a performer, no hesitation. 100 fucking percent in.
yeah,
And
I'm
I love that.
100% committed. I can't, I don't know how else to do it. I honestly don't know how else to do it. And like, I didn't get all dressed up or undressed for nothing. I've got to,
Yeah.
got to go there. And if this
Yeah.
character it needs to fall apart in front of these people, then he's really got to fall apart.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point?
I love it.
Uh,
I love it. And apparently you're quite comfortable with nudity as well, which is great.
I made the mistake of doing this. I thought when I wrote the show, oh, it's going to be fine. I'll be doing it in summer. But I'm doing so many winter shows at the moment in South Africa in that fucking nappy. It is so cold. And some of the gigs
Fuck.
I've done are wild. I did a tour into East London, down the East Coast, where there was no backstage area. It was in a pop-up tent. And so I had to get changed in my car. And at one point, and it was raining outside, and I couldn't. At one point, you've got to step out the car to tie the nappy together, right? I
Ah,
did that. I'm standing in mud. I'm getting rained on, putting my mic on, and then I kind of traipse through the mud to the stage. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with nudity, but not always uh, to my advantage. And
that's
there's another
insane.
example of why I have to remain humble. I
Yeah.
can't take myself too seriously because those are the situations I constantly find
Yeah.
myself in.
Rob, thank you for your time, my brother. Thank you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.
And I would say to Rob's audience, stay damaged
And keep healing.
and keep healing. In my audience, I say stay curious.
Stay curious. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, stay
I like
curious.
that. I love you. Thank you so much for having
Thanks, man.
me as a
Thanks, man.
guest.